Hi, this is Jalen Parker here, hosting the Fantasy Squad podcast brought to you by the Just Good Network. I'm joined today by Jasani and Brandon. And, we're about to bring you that hard hitting fantasy football analysis and content that y'all been craving all week. So, to our loyal viewers, hope y'all tune in, stay here the whole time, ask us plenty of questions. And without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So, this has been a pretty eventful past couple of days in the NFL. Lots of bombshells. The first thing I want to talk about is probably the Henry Ruggs situation. It's a pretty messed up situation all around. It's pretty much looking like Ruggs' career is probably over. He's already been released by the Raiders. And so I just wanted to ask, do y'all think what do y'all think this does to the Raiders players and to anyone wondering about the Raiders and their offense moving forward?
I don't think. Ruggs was a piece, but I don't think he was a key piece in the offense. I don't think. I just think their deep threat was taken away, so they don't really have anybody to take the top off. So I think defenses are probably going to sink in more because they don't have to worry about Ruggs' speed. But yeah, the whole situation really sucks. The Raiders have been getting hit hard with a lot of things lately, from Gruden to Ruggs. I don't really know how the player's mental is going to be after this whole month. This month has been terrible for the Raiders. Uh, I don't see a team ever signing him. I don't really see him ever really getting back in the NFL. If he does, that'd be crazy. But talent talks. So maybe like down the line or whatever. But yeah, I think his career is also over. So for fantasy wise, I don't think he's gonna be ever relevant again.
I don't think he was ever really like the main engine of the Raiders offense by any means, but I do think he did have like a pretty important role. So I think those targets that he was getting does need to go somewhere. So maybe the Brian Edwards truthers can finally see what they have in Brian Edwards without any real excuses, but we'll see. Um, I don't really see how Darren Waller could get any more targets at this point. Maybe they incorporate more short passing game. Recently, in this new coaching regime, they've been using Kenny and Drake a lot in the short passing game. So who knows what this offense is really going to look like now? They might have to go through a complete restructure here with losing Ruggs, but that's what I think. I think those targets that are going away will be probably going to Ryan Edwards, in my opinion, but we'll see.
Yeah, and also I forgot to say this in the opening, but condolences obviously to to the young woman whose life was taken away from her in such a tragic way, and really makes you think about the fragility of life. Just in an instance, two people were just living their own lives, and now multiple people's lives are changed forever.
Yeah.
But the next thing I want to ask you guys about is the Michael Thomas situation. I mean, this guy was, considered to be the lottery ticket bench stash that you never knew, could win you the league, but he is now out for the season. And from what Sean Payton said, it has more to do with the procedure that he had done recently than his new injury, which to me sounds like Sean Payton is probably fed up with Michael Thomas and his BS like he was when he blatantly said he should have gotten surgery a lot earlier. Do y'all think that this is a sign that, Michael Thomas might be done in New Orleans, in all honesty? Or what do y'all think about this situation?
Yeah. I think if it was up to Sean Payton, I think Michael Thomas would be out of there. But Michael Thomas has a fat contract, so I don't really know any teams that could really just pick it up. Especially for a wide receiver, and there's so many good wide receivers, and draft pipeline has a bunch of wide receivers come out every year. So I don't know if a team wants to pay a premium for a stubborn diva injured Michael Thomas. That's just asking for a lot. So I think the Saints might be stuck with him. But yeah, I think it's very clear that the Saints are pretty over Michael Thomas.
I agree. I think the Saints. I think he's done with the Saints, in my opinion. I think he'll be either moved in the offseason or even like cut. I mean, we've seen a lot of teams be kind of cutthroat. I mean, he was the like undisputed wide receiver one a couple years ago, and since then we haven't really seen him play football. And he's kind of done a lot of moves to put himself in this position of not being able to play football. So I don't know. I think I agree with Trasani in that Sean Payton is done with him, and I can't imagine him really playing another game as a Saint. But we will see. What do you think, Jalen?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's definitely something going on between the two sides where there's some weird impasse. I don't know where it comes from. I personally do think it might have something to do with the fact that Michael Thomas got injured when he shouldn't have been in the game in garbage time. That's where the initial ankle injury stemmed from, was Sean Payton having him in on a blocking play for no reason when they were up by like 20 points against the Bucks last year. And so maybe, Michael Thomas is like, hey, you're the reason I got hurt. So I don't want to play. I don't know. It's all speculation, but I for sure think that there's a rift. They say that everything is good between the two sides, but, that's just because if they say publicly that they don't want him, then they pretty much can't move him. And so, yeah, I would assume something happens this offseason. I mean, yeah. I'm sure some team would still buy the talent, but the Saints probably wouldn't be able to get good value for him, like you said. I mean, his contract, this situation is going to be in the blueprint every time a GM has to negotiate a contract with the alpha wide receiver one. They're going to say, how do we know that you're not going to just become Michael Thomas once we give you this contract?
Yeah.
Because everyone already knows that another guy with a fat contract that's looking like he and his team are about to part ways, and he's following a similar Michael Thomas career trajectory that we're now also going to talk about, Odell Beckham. I mean, so I think it's been said that Kevin Stefanski has told the team that Odell Beckham is going to be away from the team for the rest of the season. I hope that they just release him so he can go to another team and make an impact somewhere else and prove that he is good, unless he is actually just washed. But we might have a toxic situation going on where they might do him like the Texans are doing Deshaun Watson. And they just hold him on the team and pay him not to play. So what are y'all thoughts on that situation moving forward?
I mean, if y'all saw the video or whatever, it kind of exposed Baker. I really don't think a lot of it was Odell's fault. Like, if you watch the video, like, he was wide open on like 80% of the plays. Granted, that was his dad, so he probably just found the clips that made Odell look good. But I mean, Baker, it's not like Baker's having an MVP season this year anyways. Either. So I think there's definitely both blame to go around, but of course they're going to stick with their quarterback over a receiver. So I'm not surprised Odell's being treated this way. And he's been injury prone and things like that. He's been injured like for the past like 2 seasons. And just hasn't really been putting up numbers at all. Like, he hasn't even scored this season at all. Baker and Odell just don't work for some reason. Like, nobody's really figured out why. They should click easily, but they don't. I personally want to see Odell move. I still really like Odell. I think everybody kind of fell in love with Odell after he made that catch on the Cowboys. So yeah, I would like to see him go to like a contending team. And I think he would have a resurgence of a career if he does. Nobody really wants to play Cleveland, man. That's just like a depressing place.
Yeah, Odell is definitely done. I think they'll probably just cut him. I don't know what they could get for him trading wise. He hasn't really done much at all in his time at Cleveland, so it's not really much on his resume at the moment that's not on the New York Giants. That could really warrant him to get a lot. And that clearly toxic locker room, toxic, like what Odell's dad did was not really the best. just to kind of throw the QB under the bus, kind of like that. But I'm assuming in the back office, Odell's probably getting thrown under the bus a lot of the time for his production. So probably his dad defending him in that, right? But I agree with Chisani. I think he's still top end talent. Maybe he could find another team. He definitely will find another team if he gets cut this year. That's no question. I don't really know. What do you guys think would be like a top spot where you would be interested in
Green Bay.
in his fantasy value?
Green Bay.
Green Bay.
Yeah, with Rodgers. Oh, I would imagine he would be fine. I would imagine if he got paired with Rodgers, he'd be fine somehow.
Yeah, that's a pretty good spot.
I mean, Odell just cost so much, so I just don't know how. And also saw that Baker's wife was liking posts that was kind of bashing Odell. So they're going back and forth and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a very toxic relationship. And I also heard that the Browns don't want to release him because they fear that the Odell is just gonna go to an AFC team and then they're gonna have to face him.
He goes to the Ravens.
Yeah, like the Ravens, Steelers. I mean, anybody in the AFC, that would be tragic.
So I think if they cut him, he immediately goes on to waivers, and then he has a 2 to 3 day period where any team that picks him up would take on his contract. So then the Browns wouldn't have to pay him anymore. But if not, then he would essentially be a full free agent and he would be able to negotiate a brand new contract with any team. The issue is, how the waiver system works like it does in fantasy football, where the teams that are at the bottom of the barrel get first dibs on picking Odell up. And that's how you end up in Detroit, which is easily a worse situation than Cleveland.
But he should go to the Jags, to be honest.
I would, if he went to the Jags, I could actually see him being pretty useful still. I mean, they lost DJ Chark. I would assume Odell should be able to fill the DJ Chark role and have that valuable field stretching role.
And I don't think Trevor googly eyes Odell like Baker used to. I don't think Trevor really cares like that.
Yeah, Trevor's a seasoned vet. But yeah, also it is looking like Baker just is never going to be an elite level quarterback at this point in time. That's fine, but I think the Browns are in the running for, I don't know about you guys, but I thought that they were going to be a contending power in the AFC to make the Super Bowl. And now they're the worst team in that division probably, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, I think that's a diamond on Baker, man. You gotta be able to lead that team. I understand that you busted up your shoulder or whatever, but I mean, and both his tackles went down and his running backs went down and stuff.
The whole team is busted right now.
Yeah, the whole team is busted, but it's not like you led them last year when the whole team was healthy either. So it's just like this year, everybody was like, okay, everybody's back, so this should be the season where you lead them. And they didn't give him that contract extension. I don't know, man. I don't know if Baker is going to last on the Browns just because it's a new GM, new head coach, and they didn't really pick Baker. And the numbers kind of scream that he's below average in every category. But hey, I mean, it's better than what you had before. So
yeah, I think that's what will keep Baker in town, is that they're going to be like, we can keep Baker or we go back to trotting out Johnny Manziel and all these cats. But all right, we have 2 questions. We can answer those before moving on to our next topic, which is going to be the last little situation we want to talk about, which is going to be the Calvin Ridley situation. Mike Williams for Amari Cooper. I think that those 2 players are low-key the exact same. Well, I guess Mike Williams is a little more boomer bust than Amari Cooper, which is kind of hard to be.
Yeah.
But what are y'all thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm not I'm a fan of Michael Williams as a player, but not as a fantasy player. I think he's a one-trick pony. He's just there for deep balls and those 50-50 balls. Yeah. I don't really think he runs routes necessarily well. He doesn't really do the short or intermediate. It's just literally just deep balls. So when you section yourself off like that, yeah, you're gonna have those big games, but you're also gonna have those games like the past couple of weeks you get 4 or 5 points. It's just clear. It just absolutely depends on the game script. Amari Cooper is definitely a lot more consistent. I think he's in a better offense. He's still the wide receiver 1 of that team, It's just there's way more mouths to feed on that offense. There's Zeke, there's Pollard, there's the two tight ends, there's CD. So that's the only issue. With Mike Williams, it's just Keenan and him. So yeah, I mean, like what Jalen said, I don't think necessarily gain anything. I guess you gain a little bit more consistency from Amari Cooper. Uh, they both already have their bye weeks, so I don't really see a really big difference. You just banking on the numbers that Mike Williams had at the start of the season, but I would go for Amari Cooper. I still think he's the best route runner in football still. He's still the wide receiver one of that team. And I think having CD there pushes him to be better because he knows CD's breathing down his neck.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like Jalen said, it's kind of what your team needs. If your team can use a really explosive boomer bust player, then maybe Mike Williams. But if you need something more consistent, then definitely Amari Cooper. I personally would rather have Amari Cooper rest of season, just because of how many targets he's been seeing. He still sees around I think he saw 12 targets this last week. That was the backup, but even with Dak in, he sees about 8 to 10 targets each week, where Mike Williams can score 2 touchdowns in a given week, but so can Amari Cooper. So I'm going to follow and chase the targets here, that rather than chasing the actual production that we've seen this year. I think Mike Williams, it would be hard for him to keep up the production he's been put up all year, and we've seen that. I think he's been pretty much dead even on boomer bust games. Pretty much either he's a top 3 receiver or he's outside the top 30. So yeah, I personally would go for Amari Cooper in this situation.
Especially too, these past 2 games the Chargers played. This past week against the Patriots, and they had their bye week the week before that. But then the week before that, when they played the Ravens, the Chargers' offense has been really out of sync recently.
Yeah,
and we all knew Keenan Allen was the wide receiver one of the team. His production has been fairly consistent all year long. I don't know if he's gotten a game above 20, but I don't think he's had a game below 10. So I think that he and Eckler are going to be the really only consistent fantasy football options, right? Because even Jay Herbo has been struggling the past couple of weeks, and for whatever reason, because they were looking like world beaters through the first 4-5 games of the season, but recently I don't know if they've been figured out or if Herbert's hitting the sophomore slump. But I would assume Mike Williams will definitely bounce back in a big way at some point in the future. But I think that it's like you said, I think the fact that there are more options on the Cowboys offense helps make it to where teams can't focus on taking Amari Cooper away. I feel like it's not a coincidence that in the 2 games recently where Mike Williams has not performed well, the Chargers have lost, and teams are going to notice that, I think. And so you're content to give up underneath stuff to Keenan Allen, but you don't want Mike Williams taking the top off your defense for 70.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then Stephen Drake says, how do y'all feel about Boston Scott this week? Half PPR, and would you start Parker and Tony this week?
I would not start Tony. He's been dealing with several injuries this week, and the Giants' offense is terrible. Devontae is pretty much the same.
They're playing the Texans.
I think you could start him. I think you could start Devonta Parker.
I don't know. I've literally, as long as Devonta Parker's been in the league, I've never been a Devonta Parker fan. I don't know what it is with him. He's just been a thorn in my side for years on it. It's just because whenever I do trust him, he absolutely shits the bed. It's just so annoying.
Of those 3 guys, if it's a flex spot, I would prefer to start Boston Scott with his matchup and with his goal line usage and stuff. I'm not scared of Jordan Howard or anything like that. I think he can score here in this matchup against the Chargers.
Yeah, I would definitely say Boston Scott also. It's just I don't know if it's just because they were playing against the Lions that Boston Scott was able to produce. I would say it's probably a lot has to do with that. Yeah. I don't think he's going to be able to get 2 rushing touchdowns like that too. He's a very small man. I thought he was going to be the pass catcher. So the fact he got the goal line work. And he also got worried about Jalen Hurts vulturing those rushing touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only tricky part. But I do think, I mean, so it's kind of weird, kind of switch. So Boston Scott turned into like you know, the power back, and Kenneth Gainwell turned to the catching back, which is Boston Scott was always the catching back. So I don't really know what the Eagles' offense is. I would, I guess all those. I would say, I guess I would definitely say Devonta Parker, just because Tua has been playing better these past couple of weeks. I think the whole Deshaun Watson trade might have lit a fire underneath him, and he's kind of out for blood, trying to prove the Dolphins wrong. So Devonta Parker is I would say is the wide receiver. I would say he's the wide receiver two of the team. Waddle's definitely wide receiver one of that team. I don't think Devonta can necessarily garner wide receiver one numbers on that offense. Yeah. But he's playing against. They're playing against who they're playing against.
They're playing the Texans, so Tua is trying to off.
Yeah. So the Texans are awful also. So I would go with Parker. I think he has probably a safe floor, not a high ceiling. So yeah.
Yeah, even speaking of Waddle, last week he still had 12 targets. I think he only caught 4 of them, but they're using that. They made that man the focal point of the offense, and so I would definitely probably go Devonta Parker, then Boston Scott, and then Kadarius Toney last. I don't know what if you would have told me the Eagles were going to beat the Lions, 44-7, right? I would have said, Jalen Hurts probably went off for 30. Smitty might have caught a touchdown. Kenneth Gainwell probably went crazy catching passes. No, all 3 of those guys probably had their worst fantasy games of the season. And, I got the notification before the game that they said Boston Scott was taking reps with the starters. And I was like, they're trolling, right? They're trolling. There's no way. And then this is what happened. I think Kenneth Gainwell is not a big running back either. And so I felt like they were running Boston Scott between the 20s. Kenneth Gainwell was the pass catching back, and Jordan Howard just came in to steal touch, for short yardage. Where did Jordan Howard go? I knew he was on their practice squad, but when I heard they brought him up, I was like, no way he has an impact.
Right? I thought he was gone. I swear they cut him like 5 times.
They just send him back to the practice squad. Miles Sanders was like, y'all never gave this many. Y'all never gave me any of the carries. Y'all just gave Boston Scott or Jordan Howard.
I was saying, dude, so Jalen Hurts had his best game NFL wise, as a quarterback, but it was the worst fantasy game he's had. It's how does that even make sense? How does those two even correlate? But the games we had, he was played awful, NFL wise, low QBR was the best fantasy wise. I don't this man is cheat code.
Yeah, and so we have some questions from Michael Chapp. Then we'll dive into our talking about last week's starts and sits. He said, I sent in these following 3 trades. The Eckler and Najee owner are different people. I sent Pitts or Diggs for Najee. I sent Diggs for Eckler. Views on the trades, and do you think they accept?
There's no way they accept Pitts for Najee. I don't think they accept either of them. I'll be honest. You're going to have to add some more for either of those running backs.
They would have to be loaded at the Najee guy would have to be loaded at running back and have a huge need at tight end or receiver, and the Eckler guy I think would have to have a huge need at receiver as well.
Yeah, it's just Pitts. It's you're trading Pitts off his worst week, and you're trying to trade for Eckler off of one of his. He only had 11 attempts for something amount of yards, but I think he did score. So I definitely don't think Diggs for Eckler. Diggs has been having a pretty down season this year, also. Yeah. So I don't think they're going to accept it. You're definitely going to have to add an RB2 for them to even think about it.
Opinion. I think if you want to get either of those running backs, you definitely have to add at least an RB2 to Diggs, because Diggs on a down year. I know he's had. I know he has that. He should be a top 3 guy, top 4 guy. But this year, it hasn't looked like that, and he hasn't produced like that. So it's hard to trade him like that. So
yeah. I mean,
If you can get those guys for him, for those trade, I would like absolutely do that.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like Diggs is starting to pick up a little bit, but it's just like the Bills have so many weapons on our offense, and Josh Allen, like sometimes he vultures and has rushing touchdowns, so that's even less for Diggs. And Eckler, I mean, you're training for the number 4 and like the number 3 running back, I think. So it's like you train for 2 top 5 running backs, and you're giving a tight end, a top 10 tight end, and like I think Diggs is like just outside of 30 in wide receiver. So yeah, you definitely have to add some more for those players.
And hearing Pitts, that also reminds me of the other situation talked about last, the Calvin Ridley one. Obviously, he said he is stepping away from football to, get his mental health in order and, completely respect the decision. I think everyone should. Mental health is something that really does need to be taken seriously, and it should be treated like an injury. The brain is a muscle or something like that, right? I don't know anything about anatomy, but what are y'all? What are y'all thoughts?
The brain's a muscle.
It's an organ, something like that. So, what are y'all thoughts moving forward on how that situation affects the Falcons? I mean, I think Pitts shares just went through the roof rest of the season personally, but he also might get locked down by number 1 corners like the Panthers did.
Yeah, but I don't think everybody has a corner like Stephon Gilmore. That the Patriots at least the Patriots gave up for a 6th-round pick.
Yeah. And I mean there is a potential that he does come back in like a week or 2, right? There's nothing confirmed that he'll be gone for like an extended period of time. Unfortunately, there's also nothing telling. There's no saying that he even will come back and play. That's not even a guarantee either. I agree. I think Pitt's share is about to go even higher than what it already was. And that's about it. I don't really think any other receiving options other than Cordero and Pitts should really even be looked at, even with this news. Like, you're not going to be picking up Zacchaeus or
Russell Gage.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, you can try. You can definitely go down that narrative lane, but I don't think that's a lane that anyone should go down. I think that's really just good news for Pitts. And maybe even better news for Cordero. And then one of those 2 guys might go off any given week.
Yeah, I just think the whole with like him saying he needs to step back from mental health issues, I think that kind of explains why he's been having such a lackluster season so far. I mean, I don't know what he's going through, but whatever's going through, it has to be very serious for him to like step away from football like that and get his mind right. So, I mean, it makes sense why he's been having a disappointing season, and I hope when he comes back, he can uplift the Falcons. 'Cause I mean, like, he's still the wide receiver 1 of that team, and the Falcons are definitely going to miss him. Like, when you lose a guy like that, regardless of how he was playing this season, like, the offense is going to hurt because, defense is still got to respect that regardless. So now they could just hone in on Pitts and Cordero. But I mean, it's Cordero. So they're only going to hone in on Pitts.
Yeah, Cordero's going to get his.
Defenses are. I don't think defenses are ever going to plan for Cordero, so he's always going to get his.
And so now we'll go into our recap. I will say, so Michael Chapp said, I thought about packaging both Pitts and Diggs for Najee, and people said that was too much. I think with Derrick Henry going down, Najee, and CMC's coming back from his injury allegedly, Najee might be the safest running back in fantasy football right now, just from the pure fact of how many touches he gets. And I mean, I think he's a lock to finish. As long as he stays healthy, he's going to finish within the top 4 probably of running backs in my mind. And so like the value that those guys have, if you can trade a tight end 1 and, I guess Diggs, who's a wide receiver 1 in name.
Yeah,
absolutely. I would.
Sure.
I don't think that's too much at all, unless you're in like a 6-team league or something crazy. I don't know.
And I think if you're gonna want someone like Najee, you're gonna have to add someone at that level of Kyle Pitts to Diggs, So
yeah. I mean, from like what we always said, like the running back position, in my opinion, is the most valuable position. Just because, I mean, even looking at this year, like the top guys, like Dalvin, he hasn't really been doing that well. Derek is hurt. CMC is hurt. Saquon's hurt. Chubb is hurt. So it's like those the running back pool is getting smaller and smaller. So if you have one of those top guys, that holds a lot of value. There's not that many running backs that could produce like Eckler or Najee or JT in them. So I think if you have one, you definitely need to hold it on unless a person's offering you something ridiculous. Now, I don't think Pitts and Diggs is a ridiculous thing. I think that's a pretty fair one, to be honest. Like, I mean, even adding like another lower running back or something like that might just sweeten up the deal. But yeah, I mean, it's just really hard. It's going to be very hard to pride one of those top running backs from an owner like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think like getting those top level RBs, especially this year with how many guys have gone down, like you said, that's just increased the value on guys on those young workhorses, like you're kind of mentioning.
Yeah, man. It's I have Najee, and I don't think I would do that trade, to be honest.
Oh, so, I wouldn't either. Yeah. And I've never been a fan of like the people who are like invest in wide receivers and tight ends in fantasy football, because if you get those elite guys, you'll be able to make up the running back production with some draft steals. When it's like, I mean, look at how many wide receivers this year that you got late or later than expected and have made you Mike Williams, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Michael Pittman. These are so many names. Like the depth the wide receiver position has in fantasy football is absolutely insane, and it's only going to go up because the NFL is becoming more and more of a passing league. Running back value is going to essentially in fantasy football, because of the way the NFL is trending, it's going to keep going up. Conversely, with that,
because like I mean, if you have a team that's committed to a guy to run the ball, then that's super valuable because the other teams just don't be doing that. So.
Look at the Chiefs. Whoever they're, I mean, their RB1 should be good, but they don't care about running the ball. Whoever it is. And so, now we'll dive into starts or you'll start into a recap of starts and sits and talking about shockers and disappointment from this past week. So, starting with you, Jasani, you can kick us off either talking about start and sit from this past week that you got right or wrong, or shocker or disappointment, either or.
Yeah, so the one that I got right was Michael Pittman. He went absolutely crazy against the Tennessee Titans. He had 15 targets. He caught 10 of them for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had over like 28 fantasy points. And, he definitely established himself as the clear-cut wide receiver one of that team. T.Y. Hilton can't hold his jock strap to Pittman. T.Y. Hilton is just old, so I think Pittman he's like the solo wide receiver one. Like if Pittman's not open, they're dumping it off to JT. So I definitely think Pittman's going to get a lot more of those targets, those touchdowns, and he's big too. So he can get those 50-50 balls also. So I definitely think Pittman's on the rise, especially with the Colts offense. Carson Wentz did throw 2 picks to lose in the game, but it's looking. The offense is looking decently well. I wish they would go through JT a little more because, as you can see, when the ball is in Carson Wentz's hands, he turns it over every time. So, but yeah, I definitely think Michael Pittman is on the rise.
I agree. Michael Pitt. I mean, I think it's become very clear this year that Wentz is seeing Michael Pittman as the guy, the alpha wide receiver here. So definitely a bright outlook for Michael Pittman as the year goes on too as well.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every ball that Wentz throws is low-key a 50-50 ball. So he's only throwing those to Pittman, I guess. And, I mean, now this is another separate topic. JT, like you said, Jasani, he absolutely, in a game where you're up 14-0 in the first quarter, It's criminal that how many carries did JT finish with? 18, 19?
Yeah. Total. He had like 19 touches.
And Carson Wentz finished with 51 pass attempts. This man, Frank Reich, I guess he wants people to think he's a quarterback whisperer, but I think he just absolutely cost his team the game with that kind of game plan. I mean, if you let Wentz throw the ball 51 times, the other team's going to get it eventually.
Yeah, I mean, like he had 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, and it's like that's Carson Wentz. Like he can throw the touchdowns, but he's gonna cough up the ball, man. It's just like he had a bunch of yards, but those last costly what was that pick 6? That's what lost him the game. It's just like it is what it is. It's just like if you just gave the ball to JT, let him run out the clock, y'all par would have won. But I mean, every coach wants to be offensive guru now. Every coach just wants to throw all over the yard like Andy Reid. Nobody wants to hand off the ball like Vrabel.
Yeah, Vrabel knows. Look, this is why Vrabel's my favorite coach. He comes in, he'll wear a shirt that says "Give the ball to Derrick Henry," and now it's going to say "Give the ball to Adrian Peterson."
Yeah, man. AP.
Jeremy McNichols time, brother.
Oh man,
He's a third down back only.
Yeah. He was like our leading receiver before the past 2 games.
Mm-hmm. And now he's about to be running the rock.
All right, so now go to you, Brandon. Do you want to talk about a shocker, disappointment from last week? Start, sit that you got right.
Yeah, I'll bring up one of my starts from last week, Daryl Williams. He had a pretty good week for a waiver wire pickup that you just kind of threw in. 16 PPR points, 13 carries on the ground, and I think he had 6 targets in the passing game. Pretty much exactly the type of production that you were kind of hoping that Clyde would see every single game. But unfortunately, Clyde has not yet seen those kind of targets and rushing attempts in a game. So, I mean, it's cool to see Daryl Williams get that. But Clyde is supposed to be returning soon. So you probably can't be starting Daryl Williams for too long with Clyde returning to the mix. Hopefully they can use Clyde in a similar way that they were using Daryl Williams and both are running and passing the game. But yeah, Daryl Williams is one of my starts that turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, even though he got about a whole touchdown drive vultured by that Derek Gore guy.
Yeah, and that guy didn't even play like really any more snaps in the second half of that game. So I don't think you could really jump on the train of Gore as a fantasy option.
Yeah, you better not.
I mean, he looked good.
That train would probably smoke you, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. And so, do you? We can go back to you, Jasani. Do you want to? So you guys both said one of your starts from last week. Do you guys want to talk about one that you got wrong? If you got any wrong.
Yeah. Let me see. One I got wrong was actually Tyler Boyd. I thought he was. I mean, I still think he's the third option on that team. Sometimes it be enforced. It just depends on what Uzma's doing. But yeah, I mean, he had a pretty decent game last week. He had 8 targets, 5 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown saved him. I think he only really produced just because they're playing against the Jets, even though the Jets beat them, which is still crazy. So yeah, I mean, I just think at any given point, any of those wide receivers can get theirs. I still think Jamar is the clear wide receiver 1, and then goes to T and then Tyler Boyd. But yeah, I mean, I thought Tyler Boyd was just going to be phased out of the offense, and it's just going to be Joe Mixon, T, and Jamar. But I mean, he produced last week, so that's one of the ones I got wrong.
Yeah, it went like the exact inverse. Tyler Boyd was the number 1 this past week, and then I think T had 13 points, and then Jamar had 12. Now, Jamar did drop a very easy touchdown in the game. Like, it was just right there. He's just standing there holding the ball and just like doesn't catch it. And so that obviously would have been a big swing. Probably would have won the Bengals game, but hey, that was an interesting game and how that whole situation played out. I think there are lots of players from that Jets team that are in the running for some of the shockers of this past week, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can go to you, Brandon. What did you have a starter sit that you got right or wrong, or that you got wrong last week?
Yeah, another sit I got right this last week was Antonio Gibson. We've kind of just on this show, if you've been listening, we've been fading Gibson pretty hard the last couple of weeks. And it's turned out to kind of be true and show that we were right to fade him these last couple of weeks. He does get the bye week this week, so maybe after that, after a week of rest, he will have an opportunity to get his legs healed up and maybe he'll get back to full production. But Antonio Gibson these last couple of weeks. If you benched him the last couple of weeks and started pretty much any other running back, you probably got more points. But yeah, that was a good one that we got right.
Yeah, man. I'm always an advocate of, like, if a player has an injury, just wait 1 week. Like, if he goes off, oh well. But I mean, I'm willing to take that risk. Then if I start him, he gets 2 points.
Yeah.
So.
Unless you're me and you have to start CMC this week. Even though I'm waiting for the first quarter, see him catch a pass and then immediately just grab his fucking thigh and be like,
"Oh man, he's gonna like hurt his collarbone or something."
Something completely unrelated.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so now we can go into shockers and disappointments for the past week. So starting with you, Jasani, start us off with someone who surprised you with how well they did this past week.
Yeah, it would be the Jets running back Michael Carter. I mean, just so far these past 4 games, he's had 3 touchdowns. He's been doing very well so far, and I just, it's the Jets, man. I don't really trust any of the players on the Jets. So it just kind of shocked me, especially against the Bengals. The Bengals defense has been playing well so far this season, and he ran pretty wild on them. I think he had 2 rushing touchdowns on them. Yeah, over like 20 fantasy points. So yeah, I mean he's definitely an RB1 of that team. I think Todd Johnson, he's a non-factor on the running game. He's just a reliever. Michael Carter, he's young. He has those fresh legs. So I definitely, if you have him, I think now it's a safe bet that, like, especially with Zach Wilson still might be out. He probably is still out. They're gonna lean on the run game more. So I would say Michael Carter was a shocker for me, just because I don't really expect any Jets players to produce that well.
Yeah. I think out of that Jets game, if you can really take anything with you to the next week and to the rest of the season, it is that Michael Carter is pretty much the engine of this offense in terms of the run game.
Yeah, and the passing game, low key.
Yeah.
Because I think he had 11 targets. He had 9 catches for like 90-something yards.
Yeah.
Check down.
And
like
one of their receivers just got hurt, right? Corey Davis might be out.
Oh, so yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was hurt last game. I think he's supposed to be back for next week.
Yeah, well, if he's not, that's even more in favor. So I'm pretty sure I would assume that would be the only thing you could really take. I don't think, you could be using Ty Johnson, even though he did see like 8 targets in the passing game as a running back. I don't think you could really play with that fire either. Yeah, but some of my shockers of this week, I'm going to go with the Seahawks receivers, both of them. I mean, with Geno Smith, DK has been he's been pretty good so far this year. The narrative that he's just big and strong and tall, and with Geno he'll be fine, has turned out to be pretty true. Lockett, on the other hand, he's more of the shocker this last week. He absolutely went off this last week, kind of putting you back in that situation of whether you should be starting him every single week or not. Luckily this week they are on the bye, and then Russell Wilson should be close to returning after their bye week, if not returning. So hopefully we can get both the Seahawks receivers back in your lineup as incident starts again. But very shocking to see Geno get both of his receivers producing, which is something that Russ doesn't really even do. Usually just one guy or the other. So that was surprising for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Geno hasn't looked bad in the games he started. I think he might have made himself some money to go someplace and be a backup still somewhere else.
Yeah, man, he ain't no starter. Bro.
Yeah, he hasn't, but he's not looked bad since he's gotten there.
Yeah, he is a custom. Well, Who's that game they played against?
The
That
Steelers when he got bodied by TJ
Yeah,
Watt. A bunch of plays.
yeah. I mean, but the Steelers defense is really good, and Seahawks offense is terrible. I mean, their O line is terrible. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I was also shocked that Tyler Lockett did well. I mean, I'm not really shocked that DK does well because it's DK.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely Tyler Lockett because I think Russ has a great connection with Tyler Lockett. And I just thought with Gino, like, I didn't think Gino has an arm to really fit with Tyler Lockett. So yeah, that was very shocking. But I mean, there were also play against the Jags, and they're absolutely
that's a
awful.
remedy for any struggling offense. But yeah, and so Evan came back. He was the one asking about Mike Williams for Amari Cooper. He said the Amari Cooper owner didn't want him. Who's a wide receiver I can go for Mike Williams? This is my first thought. I'm sure anyone who knows fantasy, you probably won't be able to pull this off. But he did just have a terribly down week. I would try to make a move for like Justin Jefferson. I think he just had 2 points?
4.
I would
have dude Trayvon Diggs is the truth. Locked him all the way up.
That'd be like someone that I would be looking for, a wide receiver that like you personally feel way more comfortable with than Mike Williams, who might have just had like a down week. Maybe it's just like I feel like everyone kind of knows who Mike Williams is, you know. That's gonna be the hard part, is that
yeah.
would y'all say Mike Williams or D-Hop?
I mean, D-Hop's been having a pretty down season.
I'd probably rather Mike Williams.
Yeah.
This year, I'll probably pick. I mean, just because, for one, D-Hop is hurt now. Kyler's hurt now. They have so many weapons on our offense. And he just hasn't really had a 100-yard game this season. It's 8 weeks. So it's kind of like, it's not like it's a blip. It's just trend at this point. I would say for Mark Williams, I mean, I know he's been having a down season, but he's still the clear wide receiver 1. I would try to go for DJ Moore. I know he's been going down just because Sam Darnold hasn't been playing that well, but he's still the clear wide receiver 1. That team still sees like over 10 targets. I just don't think you're going to be able to get like a lead wide receiver 1 for Mike Williams, because I mean, unless someone just doesn't watch football, then they know what Mike Williams is.
Yeah,
that's what I think. I think we were discussing this before. All of us were like, "Yeah, sell him high. That is the highest he's ever going to be, and he's not going to sustain his production." And now you're seeing the ramifications of that, because everybody sees his numbers as boom or buzz. Maybe you can go for like CeeDee Lamb. Maybe go
at that point, you might as well just keep Mike Williams, right? Like, would you really rather CD over Mike Williams?
I mean, or just because he's in a better offense.
I think that's one of those things that turns into like a matter of preference on like which one you personally like more. Yeah. I don't know if one of them, because like Mike Williams right now is the wide receiver 11, but being able to trade him for any of the players that are above him or even right around him, I think just because of who Mike Williams is going to be pretty hard, especially when you look at like the past 4 games he's played.
Especially like 4 weeks ago, he was a top 5 wide receiver, and now he dropped out of the top 10. That's very alarming for anybody that's looking to trade him or trade for him, because right now the stock is going down. It's not trending up. And it's obviously the Chargers offense has been in a slump. So, I mean, he could pick back up, but I mean, like I said, I just think Mike Williams is a one-trick pony.
You think you could get a Diggs from Mike Williams? I think you could.
I think you can, just because Diggs is like a 30.
And I think I would.
Diggs is one of those things where the stock is going up.
Yeah.
You might be able to try to get AJ Brown.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one.
I mean,
you're getting at his highest right now.
Yeah, I think that's my thing. I think he's had 29 and then 30. Derek. Titans should be a pass first team now, I assume, right?
I don't think you want to be a pass first.
Change on the fly, bro.
I can't imagine that AP walks into a Derrick Henry workload.
Get 30 touches, man. He hasn't played that well, man. He got
I
fresh
can't
legs.
imagine, a team that is used to running it 35 times a game, not running it at least 20 times a game.
Fair enough. I wonder with how fast they brought in AP, if they just had like that little glass box that said in case of Derrick Henry emergency, bust this open. And it was the AP sign.
I could definitely see AP just like absolutely bodying the workout just because he is that workout warrior. He is AP and he has a play, so he has fresh legs. So I'm sure they're like, man, AP still got juice. Like, yeah, give it like 4 weeks.
I bet he'll have juice for like 2 to 3 weeks. And it'll be like, oh my gosh, he's old.
Yeah. I'm thinking as long as the Titans, I think they got the division on lock. It sounds like Derek will be back in time for the playoffs. Heck, even if we finish with the number 1 seed and we get a bye for the first round, that's even better. My main worry is, do I trust Derek coming back from an injury? And the answer to that is absolutely yes.
Right. It's not like it's a ligament injury, but he's hurt.
Yeah, well, it's the outside of his foot.
He played the game with the injury. So
I don't even understand like how he's still able to play.
He's there. They showed him walking on the sidelines, and I was like, he looks fine. But I mean, his performance would say otherwise. He had like 22 carries for like 60-something yards, I think.
Yeah,
I could be still at 22 carries.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel might be taking some years off Derek's career, but hey, Super Bowl, right? But yeah, I mean, there's so many receivers. It's just like everyone knows who Mike Williams is, so it's always going to be a struggle, I think, unless like I would say your best bet is just waiting for Mike Williams to have another boom game, and then just get when he shoots back into the top 6 or 7 receivers, dump him for someone right outside the top 10, right inside the top 10.
Yeah, dude, you might be able to get like Marquise Brown for Mike Williams, just because Marquise Brown's not like a household name yet.
Yeah.
And he's been producing pretty well. Lamar's wide receiver 1 right now, so might be able to snag him for that.
Yeah.
Because of good names.
Okay, and so now we'll just go into starts and sits for this upcoming week. So starting with you, Jasani, who's someone you're looking at that you're fading for this upcoming week?
Let's see. I'll go after Brent real quick. I gotta look up. So.
One of my sits is gonna be. I'm not gonna go hard on him being a firm like sit this week, but definitely fading him is Damon Harris. He's the workhorse for the Pats. There's no question about that. He gets all the goal line work most of the time, and he's going to see around 20 to 25 carries a game. Unfortunately, this week he does have probably one of the better run defenses that he's going against. I'm pretty sure he's going against the Panthers, which is the number 1 run defense right now. So I'm definitely going to be fading Damian Harris because he does – to have like a solid boom week, he's going to need a touchdown or 2 along with 100 yards, and that's something that the Panthers have not really been giving up to the running back this year. So I'm fading Damian Harris this week. If I can bench him, I can't. I will. But, I mean, he's still going to see the volume to warrant a start regardless, but I'm fading him this week for sure.
Yeah, I see it.
My sit of the week would have to be James Robinson. Like I said, like I would just always give it a week after coming off an injury that put him out of the game against the Seahawks. I know they said that his ankle injury wasn't that serious and that he should be fine, but I mean he didn't practice this today, so I mean that's kind of alarming. If you get a full practice for a Sunday game, obviously that'd be good, but still, I mean, those ankle injuries, just one little tweak, and he could be out again. Mm-hmm. So I would just hold off against James Robinson just for 1 week. And they're playing against Buffalo, so they have a really good run defense. Also, I think they're top 5 in run defense. think the third actually. So yeah, and I think the Jazz are going to get absolutely bodied by the Bills, so it's going to take out the running game anyways.
Yeah, I fully agree.
And you're not going to be looking to Carlos Hyde either, just up opening. You're just going to be running from the Jags. Probably the Jags offense as a whole this week. I don't really think we're going to be starting anyone, not even the quarterback. So
yeah, he might throw the ball 60 or 70 times though.
Yeah, he might get picked off 3 or 4 times.
That is also true.
Or get injured. The Buffalo Savage defense this year.
Yeah, they like knocking dudes out of games. And so now we'll dive into you guys because we're already 55 minutes in. So we'll just go ahead and dive into starts too. And so who are some starts for the week for you guys? We can start with do you have one ready right now, Jasani?
Yeah, a star for me that I'm sure a lot of people would be like, why would be Myles Gaskins, just said because he's going against Houston. Houston's run defense is pathetic. I know he hasn't really been doing the best, but I mean, against Atlanta, that was a pretty bad run defense. He has 67 yards, 15 attempts, had over 15 points, which is like for running back 2 or flex, like you definitely take it. So against Houston, it seems like almost every running back goes crazy against them. So you're just hoping that Myles Gaskin is the one that gets the touches and not like Ahmed or Malcolm Brown, which I definitely think Myles Gaskin should. So he's my start of the week against Houston.
Yeah, I feel like almost every Dolphins player could have an argument to be like a start of the week. I picked up Tua and I'm like, I have Matthew Stafford and Justin Herbert, and I'm like, do I get cute and really start Tua? The answer is no, but I wanted to have him on my bench just in case I feel a little risky. Yeah,
so I'll bring up another guy, but just bouncing off that, Waddle was one of my starts of the candidates, just because I mean he could see anywhere from 10 to 12 targets in a given game, and against Houston, I mean, give it to me. And then with Houston, I mean with Tua playing significantly better these last couple weeks. Yeah, I mean, how could you not start any of your Miami players this week in this matchup? Another guy I did want to bring up is Bills wide receivers against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, you're probably starting Diggs no matter what, but Emmanuel Sanders, you might be considering benching this week because he did just see a 0-point goose egg week. He just dropped on you. He had 2 targets, and he didn't catch one. I don't think that'll be the case this week. I think this week he's a strong candidate for a bounce back week against the Jags. One of the best matchups you could ask for. Josh Allen's still going to throw the ball a ton and put up a bunch of points against the Jags. Even with 2 running backs, the Bills, I don't trust that their run game will be enough to really seal away this game. So I expect to see Josh Allen throwing a lot, and I expect Emmanuel Sanders to score at least once, or at least do good for your fantasy lineups this week.
Yeah, Coles Beasley, I guess, could have also been one of the names we put as one of the shockers from this past week because I thought that man was dead in the water. He was looking like he had been phased out of the Bills' offense. I will say there's a possibility that Dawson Knox is back this game too. I'm pretty sure. I think he's currently day-to-day with that hand injury. If he doesn't play this week, and I'm pretty sure he's a lock to play next week, that's all just something to manage looking forward. But
yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I would assume Emmanuel, he said something to Josh Allen, good QBs never let their guys starve 2 games in a row,
Yeah.
But yeah, and so now we'll just go ahead and go into talking about the buy, sell, drop, hold candidates for the week. And so the first name I want to bring up to you guys is Michael Carter. You could argue that this will end up being his best game of the season because he is on the JETS mess. So would you personally, I would say, if you could capitalize off this and get something really good, obviously always go for it. But I think that personally, he's established himself as the surefire RB1 on this team, and I think he does have pretty decent value moving forward.
Yeah, I would say sell just because it's the Jets, man. I just don't really trust that their offense is going to be able to sustain that for multiple weeks. Yeah, I know I said like the past 4 weeks he scored a touchdown, but that also means he's touchdown dependent on a Jets offense. So that means you got to expect them to get into goal line range. So yeah, he's at his highest right now. So you could definitely get a pretty penny for him right now. And buying him right now is just the inverse. Like you're buying him at his highest point. I would wait for him to have a couple off weeks and then buy him for the low. Cause I definitely think he like Jen said, like he definitely has value. Like the running back one for any team has value, unless it's the Texans. But yeah, I mean they definitely feature him in the offense. I don't know if his stock is going to keep rising. I looked at his schedule, and his schedule's all right. Ain't nothing too crazy. Like they definitely have some cupcake matchups, but I mean,
They're the cupcake matchup.
Yeah, they are the cupcake matchup. So I don't know.
But
So it's like you always got to run into the possibility that I just get smoked out and the run game gets neutralized.
They're looking like low-key Kingslayers. I mean, their 2 wins have been the Titans and the Bengals, who everyone was like, oh, yeah, these teams are legit. It's like
yeah.
David Jelu. Before we go to you, Brandon, we have a question. He said, trade Mixon away for Debo. Full PPR also have Dalvin Cook, Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, Diggs, and Justin Jefferson. I really like Mixon as the RB2 on that team, and I think you're set at receiver with Diggs and Justin Jefferson.
I agree.
I do also agree.
I would rather keep Mixon at RB2 with Dalvin and Michael Carter and then run with Diggs and Justin Jefferson as their wide receivers. I mean, Debo has been awesome this year, but I mean, there's always a chance that Debo can go down at any given week. That is kind of what he's known for.
Yeah.
And he's never seen this amount of production before and this amount of usage either. So, I mean, Debo is he kind of is a ticking time bomb, in my opinion. So.
You also have to think he'll start eventually. Kittle might even be back this week. Yeah. He's practicing again. That'll eat into some of his targets. And I think we're also going to see Trey Lance at some point as a starting quarterback. And, 12 targets from Trey Lance is substantially different than 12 targets from Jimmy Garoppolo right now.
Yes, I think we're all agreeing. Hold Mixon in this situation.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Just because if you trade him, then you start Javonte as your RB2. And then you add Debo, Diggs, Justin Jefferson, which is like that's a very nice wide receiver core.
Yeah.
But I always lean towards running backs than wide receiver. Like you can find another wide receiver to fill in. Oh, never mind. Your running back 2 would be Michael Carter, essentially. And then
I'd still rather.
Yeah, I would still keep Mixon. Mixon's still very viable, and you have great wide receivers. You can find another wide receiver. Actually, no. I'll just put Michael Carter in the flex. Have Diggs, Justin Jefferson, and have Dalvin Cook and Mixon. I'm sure that's what you're doing now. So I would just keep your team, man. Like some of the best trades are the trades you don't make. So I would hold off on that one.
Yeah, especially too the fact that that it's fair to say Dalvin. I won't say he's injury prone, but he has an injury history. And like, if you trade away Joe Mixon and then Dalvin gets hurt and you don't have Alexander Madison, now you're starting Michael Carter and Javonte Williams. And you're going to be looking at your team like,
yeah, you better hope Justin Jefferson, Diggs, and Debo carries your team.
Which they could. Those are receivers that might be a lot for like 15 points every week almost. Yeah. But like, because I remember I was seeing articles saying that Joe Mixon was a sell candidate because if you looked at it, if he didn't get the touchdowns, he got a lot. I think he had 2 receiving touchdowns or something crazy last week. They were like, if he didn't have those touchdowns and he's still splitting time with Samaje P. Ryan, and I'm just like, if he's producing, he's producing. You know, I understand that. And I don't know. I think you would be able to trade Mixon. Would you be able to get more than just Debo?
I don't know. I mean, Debo is a top 4 receiver.
Yeah, I think Debo's going with the best you get. Which is like, if you didn't have Justin Jefferson, Diggs, and them, I would definitely say, yeah, go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, Diggs is on the rise, and Jefferson, he's that dude. So it would just be like, you'll strengthen a strength, and I will always say strengthen your running back core over your wide receiver core, because you can always find wide receivers to fill in that slight hole when you do. And it's like Justin Jefferson and Diggs already had a bye week, so they're not leaving. Debo's already had a bye week. I think Mixon still has his. So you're definitely going to need those running backs.
Yeah. Running back depth is crucial, especially with how many injuries we've seen this year. You know, it can happen to those guys. It just does. Happens to them way more frequently than it does those top tier wide receivers, unless you got Michael Thomas on your team.
And I think Mixon is in the running, or at least top 5 in running back carries this year. So that's just attempts. So
yeah, and he's in a really good offense. The Bengals offense has been putting up so many points, so that's just even more opportunities for Mixon. Like if he was producing like this with the old Bengals, I'd be like, yeah, just go ahead.
Yeah.
So then the next name I want to bring up is Boston Scott. Yeah, I mean, I guess nobody would be buying him unless you think that he's just going to really eat into Miles Sanders' workload when he's fully healthy, which he might, because the Eagles seem to hate that man, I think.
Bro, if you buy in Michael Scott at his highest, you just don't watch football. That's my opinion. Or you just don't really care about fantasy.
Yeah, you definitely can't be. I mean, I don't know what you could trade him for, or who you can finesse, or what you could finesse. I mean, pick him up off the waivers for free if you got him. Like, great. If you need him, you can probably start him this week. But if you can avoid starting him at all costs, I would be putting him on the bench. Unless Miles Sanders is out for the season. I mean, I don't really see Boston Scott's value going anywhere than where it is now.
I'd say the only person you could trade him to is the Miles Sanders owner if they don't have Boston Scott.
If they don't already hate the Eagles.
Don't fall into the trap. Don't fall into chasing after the points after they just play the Lions, man. Everybody goes off against the Lions unless you're Baltimore, but. Everybody puts up points on the line, so it's just like that. I think that's more of a blimp than a trend. I definitely don't think who they're playing against this week.
The Chargers, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it is the Chargers. I mean, Chargers have a bad run defense too, but I mean, bro, it's Boston Scott. Like, that's just the way he's a small pass catching back. It's just like
he went from.
I don't see that continuing.
Like, he didn't see any work when they were all healthy. It was Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell that were the fantasy options, and now it's like Gainwell doesn't exist, and now Boston Scott's the guy. So do they hate Gainwell more than they hate Miles Sanders, low key?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say, I mean, I guess you're in the win now mode. Like, look, if I win this week, I take first place in my division. Yeah, but I mean, he's definitely not gonna be there in the long run.
Unless the Eagles decide to be done with Miles Sanders. Yeah. Which, I don't know. I'm like...
I would be looking hard to get up out of there, man. I don't know how he's just stomaching that.
And so the next name I have for you is Tyler Lockett. I mean, would you be trying to sell him now after he had a big game? Are the Seahawks on bye this week?
Yeah.
So would you be trying to move him? So after seeing he had a big game with Geno and, use the Russ is coming back to your advantage to say if he can do that with Geno, he could do better things moving forward. Would you be looking to buy him?
I mean, I've always been looking. I mean, I've never really been a fan of Tyler Lockett just because the same thing happens every year. He goes off in the beginning, then he completely falls off. So I just think even when Russ comes back, he's going to have those games where he has 5 points, but he's also going to have those games where he has 30. So, I mean, I think he's more boom or bust than Mike Williams, in my opinion. I don't think he's – I think he's a one-trick pony just like Mike Williams. He's just a speedster deep threat. I don't really think he runs routes like that. I think DK is the more complete wide receiver. So, yeah, I mean, I would be looking to sell Ty Lockett just because he's hard to trust. That consistency is just not there. I wouldn't necessarily be buying him just for the fact that Russ is coming back, just because we've seen what he is. We've seen him like have those 5-6 point games when Russ was healthy there. So that's the only that worries me. If he was going crazy and then the moment that Russ went down, he started going down, then yeah, I would understand that. But I just don't see how much would change with Russ coming back.
Yeah, I would probably be looking to hold him with Russ coming back. That's just my opinion. I think you're not going to be able to really get much for him because of his down weeks these last couple weeks. So I really don't think you're going to be really getting high value if you do trade him away. You're going to have to probably package him up with another valuable asset to get anything of like solid value in return. So at that point, I'd probably rather keep him just to kind of. I mean, you knew what you were getting when you drafted him. He is boom or bust. He's always has been. And I think with Russ returning and him being able to do it with Geno Smith does give you kind of hope again that he can still have those big games. And who knows what Russ is going to look like when he comes back after being out for a couple of weeks. So I would be willing to hold on to him just because I don't think you could really sell him for very high at this moment. Unfortunately, you're going to have to sell him for a mad discount, and I would prefer not to do that.
Okay, and we have another question from Scream SGS. He said, Diggs, Pittman, Hollywood, and Mike Williams sit one. I think you're sitting Mike Williams?
Yeah, I think Mike Williams is the hardest matchup this week out of all those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all those guys are wide receiver one of the team, and Mike Williams is tied with Keenan, I guess. They're going against the Eagles, and Darius Slay's been locking up almost everybody they played against. And I don't know if Darius Slay's going to be on Mike Williams or Keenan, but, I mean, I don't think he's going to be traveling. I just think he's going to be on the side. So that'll be the only issue. Yeah, I mean, I can't really believe you have all four of those, to be honest. Yeah, so I would say you just go based off matchup if you have those four guys.
It's Diggs going against the Jags, which is its booming matchup.
Funny.
Pittman has the Jets,
That's
which is a
funny.
booming matchup. And then Hollywood, Brown, who does he have? Minnesota, which is a
That's
big
money
matchup.
too.
And then Mike Williams has
They got Eagles, so
yeah. So I going with what Jasani said.
He said he also has A, B, and 0 running backs. So who should I target?
You should definitely package
Mike Williams.
I would say, honestly, if you can trade Mike Williams and get who would be a running back that you would be thinking?
Joe
Like
Mixon.
Swift or Aaron Jones.
Or Joe Mixon. Yeah, Aaron Jones, Swift, Joe Mixon, those type of running backs.
Mm-hmm. Even Chubb.
Yeah, Chubb's been down. You could probably get Chubb for low.
Yeah,
No,
I don't
man,
know.
low,
I'm thinking if you're trading Mike Williams, you probably wouldn't be able to get Jones or Swift. Just because, I mean, we're talking about the wide receiver 11, and I think Aaron Jones is the RB7, and DeAndre Swift's like the RB.
I was assuming he's packing job like two of them.
Yeah.
Not just one.
Yeah. I feel like
if he has 0 running backs, that's kind of worth it. Like if you can get have 3 of those guys and then have one solid running back, you got to make that move. Man.
Yeah, if you could pair, because like I would say, What if you like? Who's an RB you think you could get for, let's say, like
But RB you could
Mike
get for
Williams, Mike
low right
Williams,
now,
and
bro.
Pittman and Mike Williams? Who's an RB you think you could get for those two that would be worth it? But like, you wouldn't feel like you're going crazy.
Probably the same guys I mentioned.
I would say roughly around like Aaron Jones and them.
Gibson, Mike Davis. Oh,
sorry, man. I mean, those receivers are nasty, but those running backs definitely.
dude, I think you might be able to pair Gibson with one of those receivers and fool somebody into giving you a really good RB instead.
Like, would you consider Saquon for any of those guys? I personally would try and avoid Saquon, but what do you guys think? Because you could probably get Saquon for Mike Williams, like straight up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be worth it if you're struggling that hard at running back and you have that many receivers. Yeah, that would be something definitely to kick the tires on, like a Saquon. You might. Never mind. I was gonna say, would you try like a Pittman for Clyde?
Or you could put like Pittman for like Kareem.
Kareem Hunt?
Yeah, he should be coming back soon.
I mean, I'm sure the Kareem owner would love to do that. No questions.
Hey, man, you need running backs. I don't know what else to tell you. Or you could go for like, Dave Montgomery should be coming back soon.
I wouldn't trade for a hurt guy though. If you're going to be trading like guys that are not bums, like you're trading like solid fantasy assets, I would want a running back that's not like currently in the.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say like a 1-for-1. I'm saying like you could probably get more, like get additional guys for one of those hurt guys, just because I'm like you've been surviving with those running backs already, so you could probably wait a couple of weeks. I would personally go for like Joe Mixon, to be honest.
Okay, here's some names I think that would make sense. Guys like James Robinson, Daryl Henderson, maybe. And then like maybe like a Leonard. I think those are three names of guys that like you could get for any one of those guys probably, or a combination of them that would probably be worth it, I think. I don't know how y'all feel about those three guys.
I mean, I'll personally choose like Aaron Jones, Swift, or any of those running backs over all those running backs. And I think he doesn't have bum wide receivers. Like those are really good. So if you package two of them, I think you're definitely in the right of getting one of those running backs.
Because like I'm thinking like because I have Aaron Jones and I'm like I don't think I would trade Aaron Jones for Diggs and Pittman or Diggs and Hollywood. I don't think. But
I mean, maybe. Might.
Depends how much you receivers.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole wide receiver core.
It's a 12-man league, and most people have only 2 RBs. So the running back value, is a lot.
Would you guys consider doing like Pittman for like a Josh Jacobs straight up 1-for-1?
I'm big off Josh Jacobs.
If I had his team, yes. If I'm if I have Gibson, Mike Davis, Gainwell, and Adrian Peterson, yes. But like in most other leagues, probably
because like with that trade, he gets to keep like his 3 stud wide receivers.
I would say of all those wide receivers, Mike Williams and Diggs are tied for the worst.
You putting Marquise and Pittman above him already?
Pittman's definitely on the rise, bro. Pittman's definitely on the rise.
I don't know if I'm willing to put him above Diggs and Mike Williams like that.
Bro, you're just going based on name value.
I mean, technically, at Mike Williams,
off the last 2 weeks.
I would assume if you went points wise, it probably goes Hollywood, Mike Williams, Pittman, then Diggs. If you're going purely off points, I think that you could probably get the most for Diggs just because of the name value. In all honesty, and you can sell the fact that he should be on the rise. But like, I think of all those guys, the one I would definitely be trying to move the most would be Mike Williams. Because I think that the combination of where he is currently ranked and like who he really is, probably tried to get rid of him.
Yeah, I would try to trade like Mike Williams and Marquise, to be honest, because Marquise is in a run first offense and Mike Williams is Mike Williams. So if you can package those two guys and get a running back, he's in a 12-man league, so probably one of those running backs is gonna be hard.
What do you think he could give up to get Cordero, low key? If that guy has Aaron Jones and Jonathan Taylor, I would think you could low key give up one of those wide receivers and get Cordero. You tried Diggs and Gibson for yeah. I'm sorry, man. I would have turned that down too if I had JT. I think. Do y'all think he could do like Mike Williams straight up for Cordero?
Yeah, I would.
I think that you should try to talk to that dude and get Cordero for just one of those wide receivers. That might low key be your best bet.
Yeah, like if anybody has more than 2 running backs, definitely target them. But if you, I don't think it's gonna be a trade. Even your best wide receiver in Gibson for JT, that's gonna be hard for you to do.
Yeah, guys,
you have to give up a lot more.
Might be able to get like the desperate Dalvin owner. I'm sure the Dalvin owner is kind of tired of what Dalvin's been giving him. But
yeah, that's true.
But then again, who knows? Or like the hurt CMC, maybe you could go for.
Yeah, that's gonna because like I said, I like trying to get someone like a Daryl Henderson. That guy's been pretty solid all year, I think.
Like a Leonard.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I think those three just. I feel like they're not sexy names like Daryl, Leonard, and James Robinson. So you could get those guys for more than you have to give up to get those like almost any guy above them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would say if you're willing to trade Gibson, which probably I would be willing to trade Gibson, but I think that after Gibson, the rest of your running backs kind of fall off like a cliff. No disrespect. So I would think keeping him to be like your solid RB2 would kind of probably be worth it. If you could trade Gibson and one of those wide receivers and lock up like a really good running RB1, obviously, yeah, like you said, Diggs and Gibson, but like you tried that for JT, and I think I wouldn't accept that either. You probably would be looking at someone like, would y'all do Diggs and Gibson for Swift if you had Swift?
No.
What about if it was any of the other wide receivers? Oh, dang. Thank God he had Daryl Henderson then. Hey, you should try to trade him AP. See what you can get from him.
Maybe looking to Mixon. I think Mixon would be a pretty good.
Yeah, you could do. You could probably do Mike Williams and Gibson from Mixon.
Yeah, I feel like you're kind of looking at the range of like guys who are around top 10. If you could get someone who's like just inside, that's great. But you're probably looking at guys that are like kind of in that clump of like mid to high range RB2s, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I definitely would probably be trying to keep Gibby unless you trade for like a really good RB1, because you feel a lot more comfortable having someone like Leonard or Daryl Henderson with Gibby than you do having Joe Mixon with Mike Davis, I think, or Joe Mixon with Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah.
And so he said this. We have another question. Nick said, with the picture of Pat's cam, I like the pro pick. He said, 10-team league, full PPR. Should I trade Khalil Herbert and Justin Jefferson for Adam Thielen and Damon Harris? I'm going to say no. I don't know what Khalil Herbert's role is going to look like once David Montgomery comes back. He's played well enough in my mind to still have a role moving forward, but I'll always take Justin Jefferson over Adam Thielen too. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that. I would prefer to keep Justin Jefferson over Adam Thielen and Damian. Even if I could keep Khalil Herbert in this trade, I wouldn't do Justin Jefferson for the other two guys alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't ever really know what Damien like with the running backs for New England. It's just so hard because anybody could be the workhorse in any given week. Now I'm dealing. You're just training for worse Justin Jefferson at that point. So
I think Damien, truly is the workhorse, but I don't think he's like that.
He just doesn't bring passing game work. He's getting like
Yeah.
all the rushing attempts, but like.
And Khalil Herbert, there is a chance that he does see, some work for the rest of the season. So.
I think the Bears are going to transition to like a full. Once David Montgomery gets back, they're going to transition probably to like a full run-based team. I think right now their passing volume is pretty abysmal. I think one of the names we brought up a lot, Allen Robinson. It's time to put him in the fantasy graveyard.
Yeah, you can't even bring him up on disappointments of the week anymore because, you can't put.
Bro, he moved into the disappointment house, bro. He's renting that thing.
Yeah. You can't keep just beating that dead horse. And Khalil Herbert, it'll be interesting because David Montgomery before he's never really been like particularly efficient with his carries. He's really just had the opportunities. So now that we've seen Khalil Herbert get the opportunities and be like pretty much more efficient with those carries, it'll be interesting to see what the Bears do in the future with both David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. I'm assuming both of those guys will not really be fantasy viable. It'll probably be like a mini Chubb and Kareem Hunt team over here where they just run the ball with two running backs.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see.
Yep. And so then the last two names I want to bring up, the first one is Amari Cooper. How do y'all feel about him? This past week, he just had his best game since week 1 when he went off for 40. Now, I don't think he had dipped below double digits. And if he did, it was like 8 or 9 points once, but he wasn't getting more than like 15 each week. So he just had a boom spot. And he hasn't been as bust as he's been in the past. Dak is obviously going to be back this week. Would you be looking to sell him?
I would hang on to him just because he's still the wide receiver on that team. I still think Dak and Amari has a good connection. And like I said, I think Amari's being like I remember last week when they were playing against the Vikings, like he tweaked his hamstring. Usually Amari's done for the game, but he sees CeeDee Lamb right there. And he knows if he's not on his A game, CeeDee Lamb's just going to take over for the wide receiver 1. So I think that's pushing him to play through injuries and like play harder and produce better because CeeDee's right there. It's just the problem is Dak spreads the ball around to everybody, the tight end, Zeke. So that's the only issue. But I don't think you'll be able to get enough value for what I think he's personally worth on that team.
Yeah, and he's seeing close to double-digit targets each and every week. So that's really not something you could find in any wide receiver. So in any given week, he can go crazy with 10 targets from Dak. So hold on to him. You just gotta roll with the punches.
And thank you, by the way, Scream, for saying you're dropping a follow. That really does mean a lot. Feel free to tune in every Wednesday. We usually start at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So, you're free to, ask a question anytime you have one. We answer all the questions that you see. We love the community. We want the community to love us back as well. So, thanks for dropping the follow. It means a lot, actually. And so the last name I want to talk about, Devonta Smith. Is Jalen Hurts just not? I think if you have Devonta Smith, you're trying to sell.
Yes. And
the only saving grace you have is you hope that Jalen Hurts eventually plays so bad they decide to put Gardner Minshew in.
Well, I think you're trying to sell Devonta Smith, but I think you can only do it in a package scenario. I don't think he's ever really startable And the only issue is if you drop him, someone's gonna pick him up, and that's just the way it works. No one's just gonna let him sit there.
Do you think he's like a landmine? Just like if you drop him, someone's gonna pick him up, and then he'll be a headache on that person's team. So
Yeah,
maybe you do it.
I mean, I definitely think he's. Like, I don't know if it's Devonta Smith or it's Jalen Hurts. It's part of just admission. Like, the offense is just not good at all. I definitely think in the coming years he'll definitely be better. Like, he's still the wide receiver one of that team. It's just for some reason Hurts is just not looking for him unless he's wide open.
I don't know.
I think that's a diamond on Hurts.
I don't know if it was the Eagles' offensive coordinator or if it was Doug Peterson that kind of like was talking about that game and their game plan, and he was like, "Oh, Will, you can't just go out there and like throw the ball to Devonta Smith every single play. We have to be balanced. We have to like run the ball. We have to spread the ball out and stuff." And I was like, "You guys aren't throwing to Devonta Smith at all. He had like 3 targets last week. I don't like what more balance would be to use Devonta Smith more. And if he is your best player, why wouldn't you be targeting him 10 points or 10 times a game?" So the fact that that's the offensive coordinator / he's either Doug Peterson or the offensive coordinator that's saying this, that's coming from the top down. And that's really not good news. For the Smithy owners, for the Smithy truthers, because it doesn't seem like they really have that interest or to have the game plan really run through Devonta Smith. And in a game like last week, they beat the brakes off Detroit, right? And they're smoking them, and all of their points go to the running back. So any given week, the Eagles can throw you through a loop on the game plan. So. Not excited. If you can sell him, definitely take that opportunity. Like Josiah said, you probably have to package him up. Good luck selling him as a standalone asset. But he's even a drop candidate. Even if you need to pick up somebody, and he's one of those guys that you're considering dropping. It's really not a big deal if you have to drop Devonta Smith, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. You saying that triggered me because they're saying they want balance on offense, but they give the ball to Miles Sanders 3 times a game.
yeah, I didn't understand that comment at all. I was like, balance on offense means we target Quez Watkins 7 times.
Now, I will say Rager hurt his ankle last game. I think he had to get carted out. So I don't know what that means for the future. I mean, it means one less mouth to feed that shouldn't have been getting fed, in all honesty.
Yeah, you should have been seeing a single target. I mean, this offense has only lost players and made the offense have to be more of a funnel, right? I mean, they've lost Miles Sanders, Zach Ertz, and now, I guess Rager is hurt, and yet it seems like every single game Smitty's being like less and less used and less the focal point, and they're throwing in guys like Jordan Howard and stuff like that. So
yeah, I assume
this team fantasy football.
This team hates fantasy. This team, I don't know what this is for this team, but yeah. And so that was the last question. We're going to call it a night. I want to thank you guys for joining us, the fans. Thank Brandon Giussani for being here as well. We do this every Wednesday, and so please drop a like, subscribe. Follow us on all our social medias, Just Good Network. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Follow the Fantasy Squad podcast. You can find that on Twitter. And yeah, thanks for joining us. And y'all have a good week. And hopefully, we gave y'all some advice that can help you win and not be some losers. So
yeah, thanks everybody for listening.
There you go.